What if the very ground beneath your feet held a secret so dark, so deeply woven into the fabric of a community that it shaped generations in ways unimaginable? Imagine a town where every face tells a story, not just of shared history, but of a shared destiny forged by choices made centuries ago. This isn't a tale of ancient royalty or distant lands. This is a story rooted in the hidden corners of America, a place where the pursuit of purity led to a chilling legacy. Today, we delve into the whispered legends and unsettling truths of what some call the most inbred town in the USA, uncovering the darkest family secret in America. Prepare to journey into a history that's both heartbreaking and profoundly disturbing, a secret that refuses to stay buried. Our story begins not with a single event, but with a slow, deliberate turning away from the world. Deep in the heart of Appalachia, nestled in a valley that time seems to have forgotten, lies a town whose name is spoken only in hushed tones. For the sake of privacy, we'll call it Havenwood. The founders of Havenwood were not seeking fame or fortune, they were seeking isolation. In the late 18th century, a small group of families, bound by a shared, rigid ideology, broke away from the burgeoning American society. They saw the outside world as a corrupting influence, a place of moral decay and spiritual impurity. Their solution was to create a sanctuary, a place where their beliefs and their bloodline could remain untainted. They chose their location with care. The valley was remote, accessible only by a treacherous mountain pass. The dense forests and rugged terrain provided a natural barrier, a fortress against the encroaching modern world. Here, they built their homes, their church, and their community, a self-contained world where the laws of God and the laws of their patriarchs were one and the same. For generations, they lived in this self-imposed exile, their lives governed by the rhythms of the seasons and the strictures of their faith. They were a people apart, a living testament to their own unique vision of purity. But purity, in their definition, came at a steep price. To maintain the integrity of their bloodline, intermarriage became not just a preference, but a sacred duty. Cousins married cousins, and over generations, the family trees of Havenwood began to intertwine, forming a dense, impenetrable thicket. What started as a desire for spiritual and cultural preservation slowly, insidiously, transformed into a genetic trap. The early signs were subtle: a child born with a slight tremor, another with an unusual facial feature, a third with a mind that seemed to wander in realms beyond human comprehension. These anomalies were often dismissed as divine tests, or perhaps the unfortunate quirks of nature. But as the generations passed, the subtle became pronounced, the unusual became common, and the whispers of concern grew louder, even within the insulated walls of Havenwood. The isolation that had once been their strength became their greatest weakness. Without new genetic input, recessive traits, once rare and harmless, began to express themselves with alarming frequency. The children of Havenwood, though cherished and loved within their community, often faced challenges that set them apart from the outside world. Learning disabilities became more prevalent, physical ailments more common, and a certain fragility seemed to settle over the population. Yet, their faith remained unshaken, their belief in their chosen path unwavering. They saw their struggles not as a consequence of their practices, but as further proof of their unique, divinely ordained existence. The outside world, with its diverse gene pool and its modern medicine, remained a distant, irrelevant concept. As the 20th century dawned, the world outside Havenwood accelerated, but within its secluded valley, time seemed to crawl. The few outsiders who stumbled upon the town often left with a sense of unease, a feeling that something was profoundly amiss. They spoke of the unusual gait of some residents, the vacant stares in the eyes of others, and the strange, almost archaic dialect spoken by the children. These observations, however, were quickly dismissed as rural eccentricities or the products of overactive imaginations. The people of Havenwood, for their part, remained fiercely protective of their privacy, viewing any external curiosity as an intrusion, a threat to their way of life. They had their own doctors, their own teachers, and their own justice system, all operating under the same guiding principle: self-sufficiency and isolation. But even the most carefully constructed walls eventually show cracks. The genetic legacy of generations of intermarriage began to manifest in increasingly severe ways. Birth defects, once rare, became tragically common. The lifespan of many residents seemed inexplicably shortened, and a pervasive sense of frailty hung over the community. The elders, who had once preached the virtues of purity, now faced a grim reality. Their pursuit of an untainted bloodline had, ironically, led to its slow, agonizing degradation. Yet, the deeply ingrained beliefs and the fear of the outside world prevented them from seeking external help. To admit weakness, to seek intervention, would be to betray the very principles upon which Havenwood was founded. So they suffered in silence, their secret becoming heavier with each passing generation. The secret of Havenwood, however, could not remain hidden forever. In an age of increasing connectivity, even the most remote corners of the world eventually yield to the relentless march of information. It began with a curious anthropologist, drawn by local legends of a peculiar community. Initially met with suspicion and hostility, her persistence, coupled with a genuine respect for their traditions, slowly began to chip away at the villagers' defenses. What she discovered was a community grappling with profound challenges, a direct consequence of their centuries-long isolation. Her research, meticulously documented and ethically presented, brought the story of Havenwood to the attention of the wider world. It wasn't a story of malice or intentional harm, but of a tragic misunderstanding of genetics and the devastating consequences of unchecked isolation. The revelation sent shockwaves through the academic and medical communities. Havenwood became a case study, a living laboratory for understanding the long-term effects of extreme inbreeding. Medical teams, initially met with apprehension, slowly gained the trust of the community, offering assistance and education. It was a slow, painful process of healing, both physical and emotional. The younger generations, exposed to the realities of the outside world through the anthropologist's work and the subsequent interventions, began to question the old ways. The desire for connection, for a healthier future, started to outweigh the fear of the unknown. The darkest family secret in America, once confined to a secluded valley, was finally brought into the light, not for judgment, but for understanding and, ultimately, for hope. Within Havenwood, the weight of the secret bore down most heavily on its children. From birth, they were marked, not by a
Subscribe to my
brand,
channel.
but by the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, manifestations of their unique genetic heritage. Many struggled with basic learning, their minds a labyrinth of tangled connections. Others faced physical challenges, their bodies frail and susceptible to ailments that seemed to bypass the outside world. Yet, within the confines of their isolated community, these differences were often normalized, even celebrated as signs of their distinctness. A child who struggled to speak might be seen as having a deeper connection to the spiritual realm, while physical infirmities were sometimes interpreted as trials sent by a higher power to test their faith. This internal narrative, while comforting, ultimately served to further entrench the problem, preventing any true understanding or intervention. One such individual was Elara, a young woman born with a profound intellectual disability. In any other community, Elara would have received specialized care and education. In Havenwood, she was simply Elara, cared for by her family, her days spent in quiet contemplation, her thoughts a mystery to all but herself. Her gentle nature and innocent demeanor made her beloved, But her inability to fully engage with the world around her was a constant, unspoken sorrow for her parents. They attributed her condition to God's will, never questioning the intricate web of familial relationships that had led to her very existence. Elara's story, and countless others like hers, became a silent testament to the devastating cost of their ancestors' pursuit of an impossible purity. Each generation brought new challenges, new heartbreaks, as the genetic lottery played out with increasingly predictable and tragic results. The elders of Havenwood, steeped in tradition and fiercely protective of their way of life, found it increasingly difficult to reconcile their beliefs with the undeniable realities unfolding around them. The once vibrant community, though still outwardly devout, was slowly withering from within. The laughter of children was often tinged with a certain fragility, and the faces of the adults bore the lines of unspoken burdens. Yet, the idea of seeking help from the outside world remained anathema. Generations of indoctrination had instilled a deep-seated distrust of anything beyond their valley. They had been taught that the outside was corrupt, that its ways would defile their purity. To open their doors would be to invite spiritual ruin, a fate far worse than any physical ailment. This resistance to change was not born of malice, but of fear and a profound sense of duty to their ancestors. They believed they were safeguarding a sacred legacy, preserving a way of life that had been passed down through generations. The thought of abandoning their traditions, of allowing their bloodline to mix with outsiders, was seen as the ultimate betrayal. They clung to their isolation, even as it slowly consumed them, convinced that their suffering was a testament to their unwavering faith. The whispers of dissent, though rare, were quickly silenced, and any attempts by younger generations to venture beyond the valley were met with stern disapproval and dire warnings. The secret of Havenwood was not just a genetic one. It was a cultural and ideological prison, built by well-intentioned but ultimately devastating choices. Despite the elders' unwavering resolve, the seeds of change were inevitably sown. Radio waves, faint at first, then clearer, began to penetrate the valley, bringing snippets of the outside world of music, news, and ideas that challenged the established order. A few brave souls, mostly the younger men and women, began to venture beyond the treacherous mountain pass, driven by a gnawing curiosity and a desperate hope for something more. They returned with tales of bustling towns, of technologies that seemed like magic, and of people who looked and acted differently, yet seemed to thrive. These stories, whispered in hushed tones around evening fires, began to chip away at the carefully constructed narrative of the outside world as a place of pure corruption. One such young man was Caleb, whose younger sister suffered from a severe, debilitating condition that the Havenwood healers could not cure. Driven by love and a quiet desperation, Caleb defied the elders and sought help in the nearest town. What he found was not the moral decay he had been warned about, but compassion and advanced medical knowledge that, while unable to fully reverse his sister's condition, offered a glimmer of hope for managing her pain and improving her quality of life. Caleb's return, and the subtle but undeniable improvement in his sister's well-being, became a powerful, living testament to the limitations of Havenwood's isolation. His story, and the quiet courage of others like him, began to create fissures in the community's long-held beliefs, paving the way for the eventual, inevitable confrontation with the world they had so desperately tried to shut out. The true unraveling of Havenwood's secret came not from a single dramatic event, but from a confluence of factors. The anthropologist's persistent, respectful inquiries, coupled with the quiet rebellion of the younger generation, created an undeniable pressure. The medical community, alerted by Caleb's sister's case and others like it, began to take a deeper interest, not with judgment, but with a genuine desire to understand and assist. Geneticists, historians, and social workers, working in concert, slowly pieced together the puzzle of Havenwood. revealing the full, tragic scope of its self-imposed isolation and the genetic consequences that had rippled through generations. When the full truth was laid bare, and not as an accusation, but as a scientific and historical explanation, it was met with a mixture of shock, grief, and, for some, a profound sense of relief. The elders, faced with irrefutable evidence and the growing unrest within their own community, could no longer deny the devastating toll their traditions had taken. The darkest family secret in America, once a tightly guarded whisper, became a national conversation, a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of extreme isolation and the complex interplay of culture, belief, and biology. Avonwood, once a symbol of purity and separation, was now a beacon of a different kind, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the arduous, often painful, journey towards healing and integration. Its future remains uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, the path forward is illuminated by the light of understanding, rather than the shadows of a hidden past. And so, the story of Havenwood, a town once shrouded in secrecy, becomes a powerful reminder. It's a testament to the enduring human desire for belonging, for purity, and for a place to call one's own. But it also serves as a stark warning that even the noblest intentions, when coupled with extreme isolation and a misunderstanding of fundamental truths, can lead to unforeseen and tragic consequences. The darkest family secret in America, once a source of shame and suffering, has now become a lesson for us all, a lesson in the delicate balance between tradition and progress, between isolation and connection, and ultimately, between the past that shapes us and the future we strive to build. The echoes of Havenwood's story resonate far beyond its secluded valley, urging us to look closer at the hidden histories around us, and to remember that true strength often lies not in rigid adherence to the past, but in the courage to embrace understanding, healing, and the boundless possibilities of a shared, diverse future. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. What other hidden histories do you think deserve to be brought to light? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from the shadows of history.